let's do a good 15, 20 minutes of questions, and then we'll head over to playback.
Let's do it. Let's do it. First question about Jokic and his offensive struggles. Jokic has zero touch right now. Are you seeing anything that could explain that? Is he hurt? How does he just lose his touch, especially from such close range? Something you've talked about him almost being up until this point sort of slump proof because of how many shots he gets so close to the rim.
By the way, Oklahoma City's minus 550 to win the series now. Isn't that crazy? According to DraftKings.
Jeez.
So, Jackson, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, but like any of you guys out there that play a good amount of basketball know that like shooting is a fickle thing in general. Um, you can pretty much, even the greatest shooters of all time, you can go into their game logs and you can find 3, 4 game long stretches where they can't make a shot. And the reason why is because it's like the best shooters in the world miss more than half of their shots. So if you're going to miss more than half your shots, it's like you can do everything right and it's probably not going to go in. And so that ends up leading to like kind of a mental dynamic. The big one I'm seeing is Jokic is long on everything. Like everything's off the heel of the rim. And so his touch is just off right now. I think he's in his head about it. It gets to the point where like when I saw him missing those free throws and like literally missing like his easy little like touch shots right 3, 4, 5 feet in front of the rim, to me, I just think he's got like I think it's like in Yips territory. Like he just has lost confidence in his ability to knock down shots and it's become a huge problem.
Yeah, it's really bizarre to watch. I can't. I mean, the free throws, it's everything. He really cannot. All three levels, he is struggling to make shots, and I have not. I cannot remember seeing a time that he's struggled so consistently. It's very bizarre to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
Next
see if
question.
Synergy's updated his shot making numbers, and I'll let you guys know once I see him.
All right, next question. Do you feel like SGA and Jokic are dropping their best in the world status? I feel like considering how they're both struggling to score so much right now, that Giannis has a real argument at the moment.
Giannis hasn't won a playoff series since 2022, so I don't think anyone's going to be moving Giannis up the list. Here's the thing: I still think Jokic has been very good in this series in every way other than shot making. He's been a little bit sloppy with the basketball. He's had some turnovers, but he wasn't as bad today as he was in Game 3 and Game 2. But like Jokic actually has played phenomenally well defensively in this series. I want to give him some credit for that. To me there isn't a player out there who's clearly playing at a level higher than what I've seen Jokic be at in the past. It's just Jokic right now is underachieving to his relative ceiling. But I don't know about you, Jackson. I still think he's the best player in the world, don't you? Yeah.
I do too, and I also think that maybe I'm giving too much leeway to the superstars, but there's a lot of superstars are
Yeah,
playing
that's
bad
a good
right now
point. Yeah.
because the physicality in the playoffs is, I think, pretty inarguably a level up from the past years of the playoffs. Obviously from the regular season, and I think even definitely compared to the last couple years of the playoffs, which isn't an excuse to let say, oh, they can just play bad, but it's fair to point out that Tatum is shooting poorly, SGA is shooting poorly, Jokic is shooting poorly. Steph has had some good games. He's also had some really bad shooting performances. A lot of stars are shooting the ball poorly
Well,
right now.
and the thing that's specifically frustrating about it with Jokic is like we've talked about this specific concept before. One of the reasons why I've gravitated towards bigger, stronger power players in the postseason over the years is because of the fact that they have a certain resilience in rock fights. But the problem is like Jokic's superpower, which is the ability to like, oh, I can battle to close to the rim where variance isn't an issue. He's literally not making anything right at the front of the rim. So like it's I don't necessarily it's really hard for me to process this because it's just so unusual compared to the rest of his career. But like this is supposed to be the one type of basketball that Jokic is impervious to, unlike the other stars in the league. And so that's where it's discouraging. Like even Giannis over the years has struggled as like a half court surgeon in rock fight environments, but like Jokic hasn't. And like this is just the first substantial stretch where he has. And so I want to give OKC credit. They're doing a great job swarming him. Hartenstein's doing a good job, but I think a good chunk of this is just Jokic is just playing well below his capability.
Yeah. Speaking of playing below his capability, another question: SGA with another bad shooting game in the playoffs, can we hold him to the same standard that we hold players like Jason Tatum to?
Here's the thing with Shea, like once again, like I have my feelings about who Shea is and what he's capable of, but Shea to me is kind of still in this like phase of player ranking where I don't it's all theoretically because it hasn't come to fruition in the playoff stage. But like the criticism is absolutely fair. And we've been, I don't know about you, like Jackson, we've been criticizing him through this entire series. I feel like he's pretty
Yep.
consistently at the end of these games kind of resulted to high ISOs. I thought he made some better plays against the zone in the final 15 minutes or so of this game. The big thing that he's running into is like there'll be these sequences where like Denver will get going and they'll hit a couple shots in a row and he'll just come down and take a contested 15-footer and it'll brick and then it'll be like it'll just feel like a punch to the gut for OKC's offense. And then in that late third quarter stretch, like he straight up like for like 7 straight minutes of game clock just like wouldn't shoot. Like he just was dribbling the ball up the floor and just throwing swing passes. And so it's like, okay, the no one's saying that you shouldn't shoot at all against the zone. We're just saying that you need to function as like the thing that gets the zone moving. And so once him and J Dub started actually looking to get the ball into the middle of the floor to pass instead of get the ball into the middle of the floor to shoot, they started to have the ball pop around some more and have some of those better sequences. But the other thing too is like you want to let the series play out. Like there's they still had to win two more games and we'll see how Shea looks at that point. And there's more series in the future for them. But this is the first playoff run in Shea's entire career where they are legitimately the championship favorites and all the pressure is on them. And so far, through the 7 games or 8 games, he hasn't been very good, but there's still plenty of basketball left for him to figure it out. And here they are, they're 2-2. They still have a very good chance to win the series. And so, similarly with Jason Tatum, like he deserves criticism for the way that he played during the 2 games as they dropped down 0-2, but the opportunity is still in front of him to claw out of this. And all we're going to do is just cover it game to game. Shea's been pretty bad. I thought he was pretty bad again tonight. I thought he made a couple of huge plays late in this game, which we're going to credit when it happens. And if he breaks out and starts playing amazing, we'll then start discussing it in that context. But we're all just taking this game to game. We're writing this story as it goes.
Yeah, it's sort of the challenging nature of the playoffs is how easy it is to overreact from game to game basis. Like you're so right that this series feels like one that is going to go
Mm-hmm.
7. It's certainly, I mean, it's guaranteed to go 6. It feels like it's going to go 7, which means we are barely over half of the games played. So one of these two stars who's been struggling, Jokic or SGA, maybe we end up with 4 consecutive rock fights to end the series. It's possible, but I would assume that one of the two superstars is going to elevate their play and start making some shots, and we'll have to rewrite the way whichever guy it ends up being. We're gonna have to rewrite the story in real time. To your
Absolutely.
point.
Like the my whole thing is like just be consistent with it. Like I think where we go into some dangerous territory is when you criticize a guy when he sucks and then don't bring it up at all when he plays well, or vice versa.
For sure.
And like that's the thing. Like I have routinely come on the show and said that I personally have never watched an offensive basketball player that generates offense easier than Nikola Jokic. Like I think he's the best offensive player I've ever watched. He's stunk it up the last 3 games, and it's been a problem. Like Denver scored 87 points today. Like that's not good enough
Yeah.
for a guy that I consider to be the best offensive player that I've ever seen. And so like that's really my whole thing that I'll try to do is just try to be as consistent as possible and try very hard to not let, my personal biases get in the way even though they naturally will to a certain extent.
Next question. We'll take a couple more. How does Jalen Williams get out of his slump? It feels like when he's playing his best, nobody in the West can compete with the Thunder. I don't even know if he's in that big of a slump. He had a pretty decent game last
Yeah,
night.
he was amazing
But
in game 3.
yeah,
Outside of overtime, really. And I don't even blame him for
right,
going
right.
off the rails in regulation because Shea just kind of looked him off and co-opted those final couple possessions.
Yeah.
But like as far as today goes, like it was like a steady diet of zone. Let me actually pull up the numbers. I bet you they ran zone 50 possessions today. But it just zone is such a different responsibility. Zone shifts the responsibility almost entirely to catch and shoot players, and not. They ran 45 possessions of zone today, 45 possessions, and Oklahoma City got just 0.78 points per possession. But it really just comes down to like those guys at the point of attack just getting the ball moving, whereas in man-to-man situations, it's very much about like setting people up for like play finishing situations and looking to score. But like if you try to score on the ball against a zone, you're going to have problems. But OKC, to their credit, 10 possessions a zone in the fourth quarter. They did get 1 point per possession in the fourth quarter, so they did slowly start to figure it out over the course of the game.
Let's do one more question, and then we'll go over to
Okay.
playback. Parentheses, not just about OKC. What is the best scheme throughout the NBA that you have seen at guarding Jokic in his career? And if you had to make a plan for a singular game, a game 7 against Nikola Jokic, how would you try and
So
guard
I
him?
think Oklahoma City has shown a really strong example of how a too big look can work. And if Denver were to have won this series, which I don't think they will anymore, I think Minnesota would have similar capability to do this, and they've shown it over the years. But the problem is when you put a smaller forward. So like let's talk like with the Lakers series, it was always Rui Hachimura, someone like that, right? If you put a Rui Hachimura on Nikola Jokic and you have Anthony Davis behind him, you have the rim protection piece, but it's just so easy for Jokic to get to his short range shot making against Rui because he's so much bigger than Rui. And so what he can do is he can just kind of bump Rui and get to like little short 7 foot shots over both shoulders, and he's going to make them 65% of the time. The uniqueness of the Chet Hartenstein partnership is Chet provides the vertical length that you get from a center on the back line, but Isaiah Hartenstein provides the trunky like strength that you get from a center. And so it's basically like a literal two center look where instead of it being Rui that's funneling you into Anthony Davis, it's Isaiah Hartenstein playing Jokic's right hand. So basically forcing him to drive. So Jokic can't even get to higher quality short range looks. And they're funneling him into Chet, who's got the length on the back line. And so I think they just kind of uniquely have the personnel to put a big, strong player on Jokic that is not, 6'9", but is rather 7 feet, but then also having real length behind him. And then they're swarming and closing out really well. But I still think Jokic should be able to solve this Hartenstein problem, and he needs to just do a better job. And most of it just comes down to his jump shots not going in at all. But I do think that's like the thing that is specifically different is just Hartenstein being so big, but also having a center behind him.